Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for joining the JPAC Oracle Apex Office Hours. Today's topic is low code esports analytics with Oracle Apex. My name is Chaitanya, and I'm a director of product management and strategy at Oracle, and I'm also leading the JPAC product management team. In today's session, we'll find out how the Oracle solution engineering team runs Formula One and esports data analysis using Oracle Apex. We have a very special guest today, Stuart Coggins, who is the director of cloud strategy at Oracle. Stuart is a veteran at Oracle who first started with consulting and then moved on to solution engineering. With a background in ERP and integration, Stuart is well known for building solutions through his imaginative and innovative approaches. Stuart is fascinated by the Internet of Things and has a reputation of being a gadget bloke. Has helped numerous customers to make insight data driven decisions by applying data science into manufacturing, supply chain, and smart cities. Stuart is also very passionate about data in sport and all the opportunities that brings to our customers, a topic on which he'll be speaking in detail today. Welcome, Stuart, to the show. It's all yours.
Thanks, Chaitanya. It's almost like I wrote that myself. That's a very nice introduction. One thing I will say is that a couple of my colleagues are joining who are partners in crime, as it were, with some of the work that we're going to show today. And, Jason and Wojciech will be on hand to answer a few questions. So, yes, my name is Stuart Coggins. I'm based here in Sydney. I've been at Oracle for 15 years. And before Oracle, I was actually an Oracle customer. And one of the things that I did very, very early on in my career when I was using Oracle technology was to get started with Apex. And so I'm going to show you a few bits and pieces that we have done as a team today. But I think, just understanding where I've come from. I first started my journey in Apex around 2005. The team I was working in had lots of Access and Excel spreadsheets floating around. And so what we did was go to Oracle, replace them, lots of those systems with Apex. And so that started my journey a very long time ago. And so it's been a lot of fun. I use Apex for everything. No matter what we do inside of Oracle, we generally start with Apex. And you'll see sort of evidence of that in some of our work here. I've developed a number of internal applications that we use here inside of Apex. Some that are used by quite a few people. So it's been quite an interesting journey for me. I don't consider myself a developer, so low code is absolutely how I look at this. As I said, we use this for lots of demos, MVPs, prototypes, but also real applications. We've got lots of customers that we work with where we work through a number of these different ways of using data and even analyzing data using Apex. One thing I would like to add is that I do a number of things for local community with sport. And so my son's baseball and football team, I'm on the committee for them, and I run some of their work in Apex on Oracle's free tier. So again, really good way to learn how to use the system. And we've saved those organizations quite a bit of money by being able to do things with Apex. The latest and greatest that I'm going to talk about today is we've created a hands-on lab that let you look at your esports. So if you're interested in esports data, Wojciech and Jason and myself have created a hands-on lab where you can deploy the what I'm going to show you into the free tier or into your own tenancy, gather data from the game, and then do some analytics. And then the world is yours to go and do whatever you want with that data. So that hands-on lab is now published. There is a video. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. So I'll move on. So what did we build? Well, that's a really good question. And I suppose one of the questions is kind of wide, but what did we build? Well, we built a system where we use the F122 game to generate data. um, we like to talk about data in our job. So what we want to be able to do is talk to customers about, hey, look, here's data, here's what you can do with it, and show really quick ways of showing it. And obviously Apex is a great way of doing that. But also this leads on to some other developer type activities you could do, or even analytics. So what we like to talk about is this idea of visualizing this data and then learning from the insights. So that's really where this was born. I should say we have asked Red Bull for data many times, and they won't give us any. So that's why we ended up creating our own. For those that care, we are testing the F1 23 game as we speak. Jason is doing a lot of work on that at the moment, so we shouldn't be too far behind that new release. One thing I will add while we're here is that those that use Apex may not realize, or you possibly will, but we use JSON in the database. We use that for absolutely, JSON for now is in everything we do. We tend to go to JSON first, JSON, the data format, as opposed to JSON, my colleague, but we use that first and foremost. It just gives us that flexibility of the data model. So you can do it straight into relational, but we like using our autonomous database. And I know this is an Apex conversation, but I just wanted to highlight that we do actually use JSON in the database to do the work that we're doing. So we stream all the data from the game using ORDS. So part of Apex is the REST APIs, and we write it all into JSON documents inside the database. From there, we do a couple of things. Predominantly, I would say most of what we do is on the Apex side. We do have what we consider a digital twin, where we can write an application there. Now, for those of you that like writing in things like JavaScript, and we'll talk about style sheets afterwards, but all of the JavaScript stuff we can and do right inside of Apex as well. We do actually have a real-time digital twin. We run that on a Raspberry Pi, but it could quite easily run on a computer or a laptop somewhere. So we run that, we stream the data, we do add visualization of the leaderboards, and we do add visualization of some of the analytics, which I'll show you. So we run that, and then we can kind of pass it on and do some analytics. Personally, I do most of my analytics inside of Apex, and it really is just because for me, I find it a bit simpler to do that at the moment. Analytics Cloud does give us a bit of an extra piece there, but I try and do everything inside of Apex there. So what you'll see here is that we've got our leaderboard, and yes, Max is doing some laps for us. So hopefully you will have seen some of the videos of Max driving the laps, and he's quite a special character because he doesn't blink very often when he's doing these laps. So it's quite impressive how he does them. So we do actually have some of Max's data. What we wanted to do was turn a leaderboard into something that looks a little bit Formula One-esque or esports, depending on branding. So again, we just try and use a little bit of styling here. So the hands-on lab that we have will get us to this point where we can take data from the game, we can stream it into a database, and then we can display it looking a little bit like this. There's one or two things that we do inside of the application when we run this for customers is we will do things like we'll assign a customer name to a driver. So we've got a whole forms application where when we run events, we can capture things like driver names. Now, the hands-on lab doesn't do that, but these are the kind of things that you can add on afterwards. And again, I'll talk about it afterwards. Excuse me. So I'm not going to talk about the architecture, but we do use this for a storytelling perspective. And what I want to say is that data tells an awesome story. And so, whether I rarely talk about products when we do these kind of events and these demos, but obviously streaming the data, and you can see there that if you're interested, there's a bit of an architecture, but really this is about using that data to tell the story. We compare and contrast. Some people do laps and then we compare them to Max. Not always the best thing to do. It kind of works. It's very, very engaging, I find. But again, you can see how a world champion drives, and you can see that in the data. And we do a lot of sort of turn-by-turn analysis where we actually take that telemetry that you would typically get from Formula One car, and then we do a comparison. And you can see here that we do a number of screens where we compare the data sets. And if I dig a little bit deeper, this is a particularly not impressive time, but you can see a complete difference there in how our customers might drive versus how someone like Max drives. So we do a lot of these comparisons. So the question is, how do we get something similar? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we have built a hands-on lab. Now, the hands-on lab is essentially into three parts. So Wojciech and Jason, who are on hand to answer any questions, can talk to you a little bit more about this. The hands-on lab is published. The top QR code there, and we can distribute the links afterwards, is the actual lab itself. The bottom one is a video of us actually going step by step through the lab. Now, forgive Jason and I, it was 2 o'clock in the morning when we did that that hands-on lab for the US time zone. Yeah, we'll see how we go. We might try and run this in a local time zone where we're a little bit more awake. But essentially what we do, again, for those that are interested, if you've ever used our Live Labs, which is what this is, and you can see that Live Labs is a play on words. What it does is lets you terraform the code, so that's infrastructure as code. We will build up your database for you. We'll set up a virtual machine for you with all of the data ingestion. And then we'll implement, we'll create a workspace in Apex, and then you can go in and build that application yourself. Now, the lab itself, like I say, get you to having a nice leaderboard. What I would highlight, and for those that are specifically interested, is Jason and Wojciech did a spectacular job of packaging up the Apex piece, the data piece, using tools like Liquibase. So Jason's got a DevOps sort of pipeline where we deploy this and obviously incorporate that into the Terraform. So again, if you are wanting to look at some of the DevOps type activities around Apex, then what you're able to do is pretty much package this stuff up. Liquibase is an awesome tool. It's a third-party tool that's incorporated into our autonomous database services now. So that's been really nice just to help us get to this point where we can package it up and migrate and all of those other things. And we've had lots of fun doing that in the last few days. I would also add that, like I say, if you use this as a basis, either for learning or just for fun, but anyone that wants to play with Apex itself, start playing with JavaScript and some styling, then obviously you can do that. We will certainly add a bit of that to we're going to do a series of follow-on videos on this. One thing we've started to do is I use a lot of charting inside of Apex. For the track maps, I use a scatter chart. So if you ever see a picture of a map, it comes from a scatter chart from the data. It's not an image, it's actually from the data. I've started now using SVGs. So if you know scalable vector graphics, we can actually create those on the fly from the data inside of Apex. That's been a bit of an add-on for us to have a bit of fun with and play with. So that's where we're up to. I now want to show you a little bit about that actual hands-on lab where we go. And so just so you can see, there's a link to this lab. Like I say, it takes around about an hour to run from end to end. There is a video on here as well. There's heaps of other live labs as well, by the way, but obviously go and check out ours first. That would be really nice. So we're going to jump straight into number 3, because let's assume that we already have done the Terraform piece and we've already set up the data ingestion. Now, one thing I will say is that I did set this one up and I haven't streamed any data in, which will be the position that you are likely to be in. So what that means is we will we'll be able to run, you'll need to be able to run some labs. We do have a data ingestion piece where you can run some test data. But once you've run the deploy infrastructure with Resource Manager, that will go and set up, like I say, it will set up your autonomous database, and it will set up a virtual machine, and then it will implement some data ingestion. For those that are interested, we use RabbitMQ. So the data gets streamed into RabbitMQ. There's some Python code that does that. And then we basically stream out of the RabbitMQ and push it into the Oracle database. So that's where we're at. When you're done, you end up with the front end like that. So everyone probably recognizes, and this is Apex 23 now, which is very, very nice for those that haven't seen it. Some really neat functions. I won't go into all of that right now. But what we will be doing, so the first thing that we do is part of the hands-on lab, you'll see we actually provide you with some downloads. So we'll actually give you the trial, the application. So we actually give you an app to import. I think there it is there. So you can download the files. These are the files that you get there. So we've got a couple of style sheets and an application itself. Now, in the interest of, here's one I did earlier, because I don't have any data, I'm just going to swap to this screen and show you what we do. So bear with me while I just full screen that. So let's move this out of the way. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go and import that application first. So I'll let this play. I'll speed it up a little bit or maybe I won't. There we go. So the idea here is that we go and do import app. So we'll go up into the application builder and we'll do import. And so the files that we've downloaded, we just go and import those. So I drag and drop the application in there. This will import our base application. So there's some SQL in there. So I know this is low code, and it's always a debatable subject about how low is low. But essentially, you'll see a little bit of SQL. It's going to attach to the sim user schema, which we already included. That's part of the infrastructure, the Terraform, to determine what the user IDs are. So we'll install the application. It runs that quickly. So what we then do is, there's our app. So we should be able to run that. So there you go. So there's our 4 pages. There's our leaderboard. So we've got some code in here that we've incorporated for you. So again, because the data is in JSON format, what you've got there is a bit of code you can use just to extract that data out of JSON into what looks like a report. So when we go and run this, and let me just speed that up. There you go. So there's our leaderboard in nice Apex format, where we've got a couple of laps in. No judgment on my lap times, please. They were just quick and dirty. So you can see here we've got a simple page where we're running lap times. Now, that's great, and we could use that, and of course we can do a few things with that, but what would be really nice is just to add a little bit of styling to it. So if we just speed up here. So one of the things I like to do is, what do we do next? Oh, that's right. So what I prefer to do is copy the application. You don't have to copy the application, but we copy it so that we create a new version. And then I just jumped ahead there. We're then going to go and implement those 2 style sheets. So we're going to drag those 2 style sheets into Apex. We do that in our shared components. I don't know how many people use style sheets like this, but I found it super useful. We overwrite quite a few Apex things. I hope Chaitanya will forgive me that we overwrite some of the Apex universal theme, more from a coloring and styling perspective. But we do overwrite some of the existing ones, and we've added a whole heap of classes of our own. We will need to keep those URLs that we can incorporate into the application itself. So we'll let that run. Basically what we now do is we're now going to go and add those style sheets to the shared components. So again, this is all in the hands-on lab, so I know this is whizzing away quickly, but what I've now done is I now have 10 times, that was a bit quick, wasn't it? So let's just go back. So what we've done is, when we've incorporated that CSS, we now have that color scheme that's got the blue background. So we just added it into the, that went really quick. We just added that all into the app itself. And then we ended up with this nice blue background. We got a few fonts floating around. So when we refresh the page and we log in, come on, Stu, log in. There we go. So you can see here that now I've got, I spelt it wrong, I think. There you go. So there's my, so again, we're getting a little bit closer to something that's quite nice. So now there's a little bit of work we can do just to go and tidy up these things. And again, I quite like to play with the styling, whether you use a style sheet or whether you change the pages on the fly, that's up to you. What we also did is we've given you some code where we actually create the style based on the data itself. So there's some SQL in the code to actually go and give us styling based on, like I say, based on the data. So I'm just going to change the page to be an esports style sheet. I'm going to delete a few of the fields that we don't really want on the page. I'm just beginning to tidy up the page now. So again, I've got rid of the navigation at the top. I've got rid of some of the menus. Now I want to get rid of those borders. So you can see here how you start to work through the style sheet. And when I add in that code now, that gives us actual styling. So if I just pause that where I've just highlighted there, I'm actually suggesting I'm using case statements to say, if the sector time is fastest, then make it purple, otherwise make it yellow. So we're actually adding the styling inside of here, which I think is a really neat way of doing it, because it means you've got variable styling then. There are other ways to do this. We also have styling in here for smaller screens, so that what we do is if you're running on a phone, the driver name is initials rather than, and again, that's all in here. So I'm using spans. This is very similar to running dynamic content if you're doing any of that stuff, which is a relatively newish addition to Apex. But it's great now because it's a lot easier to generate HTML. And that's really all we're doing here is generating HTML. So, you know, when people think there's a lot of coding, not so much. I think we're actually just trying to be clever about how we generate these things. So the next piece here is like the driver name. So what I'm going to do is use HTML expression, which comes from that SQL rather than just the field itself. The other problem, and don't forget this one, when you are working with HTML, make sure you do escape special characters and turn that off. Otherwise, you end up with lots of HTML code in your screens. The sector, again, the sector colors are from the database, so we can incorporate that into that HTML expression. So we'll just paste all of that in. So you'll see there that for the sector time, I've got a specific class and the color comes from the database there in that column. So this is a really neat way of doing it. I'll just speed that up now because you don't need to see me type that in 3 times. This stuff's great. If you start wanting to play with styling and this sort of thing, it really works quite nicely. So it's a good way to you know, if you want to brand your applications. Obviously in this case we're doing Formula One stuff, but you know, so there, you know, we've now got some color schemes. We've got a little vertical bar for the driver. These are just HTML tricks. So really, really quite simple once you get the hang of it. And again, because we've given you the code there, you can go and learn to do a few of these things yourself. Obviously, you can take that a little bit further. So just to speed up and just translate this, get rid of some of these bars. I'm just going to get rid of some of the borders. So I'll just go into my region settings, remove borders, get rid of the navigation stuff, change some of the padding. You can go mad on these things. So many options, Chaitanya. You guys have gone over the top with your options, but it's great for us. So there you go. So what we end up with is I got rid of the pagination there as well. So what you end up with is, you know, a screen now that looks a little bit more like a sort of Formula One type screen. And you can go mad on this one. So have a bit of fun with the data, pull it all through into Apex, and then obviously you can build your own. And then, like I say, if you come up with some ideas for additional use cases, we are always adding elements to the pages where we can expand and just provide more information to everybody. But look, that's the lab there. I think, like I say, it would be really nice for if you want to go and run this yourself. We're always on hand. There's a number of neat techniques we've used to make this happen that we use everywhere. So if anyone wants to run that, everything you've just seen is available to you to be able to do that. All you need is the game and a PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, and you're good to go. We have been asked if we can use other games. We are looking at helping another organisation with something like iRacing, but at the moment we may not have the scope to be able to go and look at every single data output from games. But if anyone does do that, feel free to let us know. We'd love to run more of this analytics for more games. But so Chaitanya, look, that's where I've got to with the lab. The guys are on hand to answer some questions. I'm not sure if there were any questions. I can see the bubble is lit up, but I wasn't specifically watching those. So are there any questions that we can go through?
I was just watching questions on Jason and answering them. So you're all good.
Excellent. Okay, so they've all been answered. Excellent. Okay. Well, look, we like I say, we do this for fun. A lot of this is in our spare time, but we like to share what we're doing, and keep an eye out on those channels, because Wojciech and Jason and there are others within Oracle that do this, but we're constantly adding to this. And if you do see us at any events or broader Oracle teams at events running the simulations, now you know a little bit more how the back end runs. So that I think is about time, probably a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but how's that, Chaitanya?
This is fantastic, Stuart, but if you have anything else to add in, some experiences and things like that, that would be nice. Otherwise, we can.
Yeah. Look, I think certainly from, like I say, from an Apex perspective, I think one of the things that is underestimated, we do a lot of work with things like mobile phones, where we use some of the capabilities of cameras, QR code scanning. We did something for an organisation where we were taking photos of dashboard or dash panels on machines and then uploading them into the cloud. I think it's underestimated that you can use JavaScript and CSS to do these kind of things in Apex. We focus very much on the database side. We focus very much on the reporting and form side, but sometimes that capability goes unnoticed. I think spending the time that we did with you can build the leaderboard in 2 minutes, select star from lap times. Obviously it's JSON, so we do a little bit of just curating the data there. But to make it look nice, I think it's worth the effort. I think getting, not that the standard themes are not, but I think if you want to brand it for your own organization, it's actually really quite straightforward. Hopefully there's enough in that lab that people can learn a few techniques. I'd love to hear if anybody else has any neat techniques they use to do this kind of thing. Definitely the JavaScript piece we've used a lot of, and I'm starting to use that for animations of those, like I say, SVGs. So that has been really easy to do, way easier than I thought, actually. So again, I think that's a good example. I think, Jason, I don't know if you're able to speak. Your experience with Liquibase with Apex has been invaluable for this process. Are you microphone enabled? There he is.
Yes, I am.
Oh, there he is. Okay, I can hit you. So I think, look, Jason has done a lot of work with Liquibase. It might be worth just spending 2 minutes, Jason, on what that is.
Yeah, so Liquibase is an open source tool that allows you to actually do a lot of change management with database structures. And so a lot of the database objects, so tables, views, and even importing data. So as part of what we've done here, we knew there's going to be a lot of change and churn around that data model and pushing that out. So we've used Liquibase to both create that change set. So that's a term in Liquibase terms, a change set, create that change set, export that out, and then when we actually distribute this across the numerous different places where we have deployed this across the world, then people can actually then, instead of just re-importing and rebuilding it from scratch, then it knows those changes and just do alter statements to actually make that happen. So Liquid Base is XML. It can transform that into SQL. But because it does that, then it works out what the SQL statements need to be based upon what those current states are in the target platform. So it's been invaluable, not just on data, but also Apex.
Well, and that's where we've used it in anger, really. I mean, we've just done a migration exercise inside of Oracle in our engineering tenancy, and Liquid Base has been part and parcel of that migration exercise. So, for me, you've made it really easy for us to move about, and certainly the packaging up for the hands-on lab has been really easy. There was a question there about VirtualBox, which I think you've just answered, Jason. One thing I would like to say is that we haven't run this in the 23 version of the database, 23C yet of the database. But what I would like to do is use this to learn some of the new JSON functionality inside the database and how we can make that work inside of Apex. There's a thing called duality views. So one of the things you'll see from the SQL inside of Apex is accessing the JSON data. It's really quite easy, but it's become even easier. So we could run the VirtualBox version of 23C and run the data collection in there. So I think, Jason, you probably answered that question. But again, that would be an interesting exercise for us to do as well.
Yeah, depending on that VirtualBox image, if it's got the 23C, as you mentioned there, then you will need to deploy using the Liquid Base scripts around the database tables at a minimum, so you can at least have that data that sits behind the Apex app.
Yeah, but that would be a nice idea. And so look, there's some of the tricks that we've been using just to get to this point. You'll see heaps of charting when you come and see us do these events. Heaps of charting. Like I said at the forefront there, I do most of the compare. So Max Verstappen actually recorded data for us. So we will regularly compare a driver's data to Max. I do that all in Apex, where we do that deep dive into the analytics, and it's such a good engagement tactic. It's really quite nice to be able to see what he does versus what we do, and Apex lets us do that really, really well. So again, charting, it's not always something you go to Apex for. Wojciech's done a lot of work with Jet, and so the Jet charting inside of Apex is equally, as applicable here. We've done a lot in the past. Anyone that saw our demos in the past using toy cars, we used Apex and Jet quite heavily.
Actually, I think apart from 23C, I don't think so the VirtualBox is updated with Apex latest, which is Apex 23.1 yet. It still runs Apex 22.2. So I think once that's available, that would be more useful. And on this note, I would also like to ask you, Stuart and Jason, what's your take on Apex 23.1 new features? Did you try them out, or if you've used any of them, like push notifications and template components and stuff like that?
So actually, that's a really good point. The template components is awesome, because I've been looking to do that, and I don't want to use the word hack, but I've been looking to hack together template components in the past, and the plugin components have always kind of I just never tried. I don't know why. And then I saw the template components, and all of a sudden it's changed my world. So yes, that for me has been awesome. I, at the moment, am not using too much of the mobile functionality. So the PWA functionality with the push notifications, that I'm really keen to play with at some point. I think a lot of what we do is driven by what customers are asking us as maybe as a POC or a demo, or we practice using things like the Formula One stuff. But for me, 23.1 is a significant step. The other big one, and I'll shut up in a sec so that maybe Jason, if he's got a point, but is the process, the approvals, process flows. Really like that functionality. And yes, of course, I could use other tools to do that, but being able to keep it all in Apex is a really nice addition. So far so good. Again, we sort of focused on this side of what we're doing for the time being, but now it's time to branch out. Now we've got that lab published. Now's the time to go and add to it.
Sounds good. Fantastic. I don't see any. Yeah, one more question.
Yeah, there's another question there.
You like to take that?
That's a great question. Yeah, Jason, you go for it. Go on.
Well, actually, that's something that we currently we're not doing, but I think we can do as the data comes through. Within Apex itself, we find that we actually use JavaScript to auto refresh things in terms of the leaderboard, because as you might think, in an event where you are talking to a lot of people, we need that data refresh as quickly as we can. So we do that up on screen. We do some things on the Pi as well, which is near real time, as close as that. So it is a balancing act in terms of some of those kind of features. But yeah, we we try to be as real time as possible in Apex.
And absolutely spot on. And one thing we do is that the RabbitMQ that we use as a gateway, so almost store and forward, if you like, we enable with WebSockets. So from a JavaScript perspective, you could put a JavaScript, just a bit of code inside of Apex to go and use the WebSockets. So you can, and we have done that in the past quite a lot. So I think you'll see there's no code in the lab to do that, but I do think we'll cover that off as a video going forward, where we talk about using JavaScript WebSockets, and being able to use that inside of Apex is absolutely a thing. So at the moment, as Jason says, we do real-time digital twin where we can run that, and we use a Raspberry Pi as a gateway device. And that's only because my internet connection is a bit flaky. So I think to stream straight from the game to the cloud, you probably need an okay internet connection as opposed to mine, which is flaky as.
We have done that. We have seen that kind of architecture happen straight into Oracle Cloud and then run that data ingestion there, which is pretty much exactly what we've done as part of that workshop at Live Lab. So if you stream directly to that cloud instance and then have your data ingestion there, and then they'll go straight into the Autonomous database and present it in Apex.
Yeah, but feel free to reach out, and happy to share some of the code we've got. Wojciech, through the developer relations organization inside of Oracle, there's a lot of code shared on GitHub there. So, we try and publish everything we do so that people can learn from what we do. And, what I quite like is when people share back what they've done. And, you'll see from various teams around the world, they've taken what we've built here. And in fact, Red Bull are using it too. So, to some degree, we like to see what other people do with what we've done and take it on and make it awesome.
Yeah, totally. I think we love any forking from the repos. We love any sort of, pull requests, any even issues if you want to raise on the couple of repos that we shared. Feel free. We're keen to collaborate. We're keen to see where you take it. We're keen to, work with you and make it even cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I check, I've got the F1 2023 already there as a pull request for you.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Looking forward to it. I don't have the game yet, but you're one step ahead.
So Richmond's asked for a link to the GitHub. So Wojciech, if you've got a second, maybe you can, if you've got our public
on it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So there you go, Richmond. Wojciech will sort that out for you. But like I say, please keep in touch. Follow us on LinkedIn and show us what you're up to. You'll see what we're up to. Like I say, Apex for me personally is a massive part of this. So I think anybody that wants to ask or suggest, Build it yourself and show us what you've done, or ask us to build it and we'll show you what we did. Either way, go for it. We're always up for that. We're always up for a challenge.
It's awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Stuart and Jason and Wojtek. So thank you so much for very engaging presentation today and answering the questions as well. We still have some time as I walk through some of the slides that we have. It was a great session, Stuart. Once again, thank you so much for taking time to do this.
We need to rethink that word veteran. It makes me sound really old, doesn't it? I'm only joking.
Okay, so I would like to talk about this reimagined or redesigned training and certification page on apex.oracle.com. I'm sure some of you would have already seen this in social media. So we now have a new training and certification page. Go to apex.oracle.com/go/training. And what's new here is we have a complete package of training and certification for Apex from the Apex team. So we have fundamentals for those who are beginners to new low code and Apex. And if you are an intermediate user or someone who really want to build cool applications and beautiful responsive web applications using Apex, then you should be going to the Apex professional training. Actually, there's a typo there. So we'll be changing specialist to professional. So this is called as Apex Developer Professional. And we have the links over here for foundations and professional. Also get certified going to the same link as professional. Then the fundamentals, it's a 3.5+ training covered straight by the Apex product team, and go to apex.oracle.com/go/foundations. Upon completing this foundations training, you will get a badge, and we request you to share this badge in social media and tag us, please. And this foundations training is available on LinkedIn Learning as well. So if you're a LinkedIn Learning subscriber, you can go there and then take this training as well. So it's available in both the places, Oracle University Digital Platform and LinkedIn Learning. Then I just mentioned about Apex Developer Professional. So this is a soup to nuts course covering complete low-code application development. 13.5 hours expert training, plus lots of hands-on labs for every module. Almost 19 modules are there. So enroll for this free training by Oracle University. And then finally, get Apex certified. It's time to race with this certification. Oracle University has got this promotional offer going on until August 31st. So please do utilize this. To become an Apex Cloud Developer certified, you need to complete the Apex Developer Professional course. While it is not mandatory, but it would be nice for you because most of the questions and are covered either from the Developer Professional or from the hands-on lab. So it would be easy for you to attempt the examination. So take this training and also perform the hands-on lab associated, and also prepare for this certification exam. We also have a prep video. Register and pass the certification. Go to apex.oracle.com/go/professional, and you will get a badge like this, which you can share in your social media. So if you are a partner helping out customers build innovative Apex applications, if you're a customer seeking help in Apex, please do reach out to us or at oracle-application_ww@oracle.com. We are happy to help you out. If you're a developer who has built a cool Apex app, love to showcase that. If you have any complex problem that you have solved with Apex and want to share your tips, tricks, and gotchas, and if you are interested to present in Apex Office Hours in a regional language, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can go to our YouTube playlist, go to apex.oracle.com/go/playlist/jpack and play back the missed Office Hours session. Everything about Apex, apex.oracle.com. We also have some shortcuts, community pages, Apex and Autonomous, and also the Apex training page that we just went through. That's pretty much for this edition. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your questions. Please do join us every month for these JPAC Office Hours sessions. And if you have any topics to cover, please do write to us and let us know. Thank you so much, and you have a good rest of the day. Bye. And thank you once again, Stuart, Jason, and Wojtek for your presence today. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks all.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers.